One of my favorite creators on the platform is the Masked Man. I really like the Masked Man. I think he's an incredible video maker. I think his anime breakdowns, his anime reviews are the best out there. I really don't think anybody has competed on the same level that he that can stand up to him, if that makes sense. But I did find this video called I Read the Masked Man's Manga, and his manga is called Devoro, and I've been curious about it. I've thought about reading it myself. I don't really have the time. I'm working. I got a kid. I do this 24/7. So I figured I would at least get a little breakdown of what it is before I checked it out myself. And also, I think it would be for the benefit of my entire audience to see how good the Masked Man's manga truly is.
You know, the Masked Man, YouTuber, content creator within the anime and manga community, now manga author. Congratulations to him and everyone else involved on this project. It's been a long time coming. I'm very happy for them to finally release their first chapter. If you're interested in reading Mask's manga, Devoro, a link will be in the description and in the comment section. I highly recommend you go check it out and give it a chance. Formulate your own opinion. So this is Devoro, a brand new manga by the Masked Man. I've been very interested in this. I'm always excited to see what cool concepts or ideas or characters that other content creators come up with. It's one thing to critique and talk and analyze different manga and stories, etc., but to make your own, to transfer all of this knowledge effortlessly is a completely different experience, and one that
I mean, this is something that all creators have a problem with. Everybody, like, there is so many times where I've sat down to write something and I have this idea, but I just have the baseline for the idea, so I get like the idea written down on paper, and it's just about filling in the blanks. And people don't realize, like, you read something and you're like, I could do this better, but the problem is when you start actually sitting down to do it, you realize that all the hardest part is all the in-between. I've always said this time and time again, at least people who I've talked about literature, is the hardest part isn't coming up with a story. The hardest part is filling in that story with interesting details and the small moments, and how do you get from point A to point B? Because you can have your point A to point B done and thought out, but it's about how you can make that as much of a streamlined yet interesting journey as possible.
Takes a lot of time and effort and dedication. A lot of that hard work has paid off, but not without some caveats, some odd stuff here and there, which I think is perfectly fine and honestly expected for new manga authors coming into the scene that is self-published. They don't have a massive team, there's not some type of quality assurance that goes through 6 layers of people. It's just masks, a couple of different artists, and potentially someone working to kind of go through and touch up some little things. So it's going to be quote-unquote rough in some areas, and I think that's perfectly okay. I don't expect a glamorous masterpiece right from the get-go. I would rather see something built from nothing and continuously grow and shine and cultivate into a beautiful diamond. Overall, I enjoyed the whole idea with Devoro, the Spanish influence, which I believe is Master's culture and heritage, a lot of influence or homage to Berserk and Dark Souls.
Bro, based. He's like, I am Antonio Dark Souls. I'm Antonio Banderas, but actually, I'm also Guts.
Stuff that Mask enjoys, and you can see it laid out within the artwork, within how stuff is written, and just how a lot of things are connected together. Probably safe to say those works from other mediums have become a massive inspiration to Mask and to cultivate his story, not necessarily within
By the way, this guy's editing is fucking fire. This is so pretty to look at.
Image, but to take bits and pieces and expand upon it within his own right. Getting into the more nitty-gritty of stuff, I think the opening for this story is very redundant. And I don't mean to be so blunt about it, but everything with the knights, the conversation, the continuity, the opening aspect for this story is odd. And I think a lot of people are going to be very confused when reading it because it doesn't really provide anything. It provides some pretty artwork, it provides some names, and obviously something that's going to be played upon within the future, but when it comes to framing your understanding of the world or characters,
mid-ass opening. The opening fucking sucks. It blows lots of penises. It's the worst thing ever written. I'm just Masked Man, you failed. Yeah, you gave it a good run. You should go back to making videos. Nah, dude, I feel like I'm being a little mean, but so far, I hate when there. You could tell that he probably has all this idea for later stuff because that's just kind of how he's a web spinner, dude. He loves to spin a weave. He loves to shoot web out of his asshole. So I feel like he puts all this stuff in at the beginning, thinking, oh, it'll be so great later when it like evolves, and the reader doesn't know that. The reader, you got to catch that reader right off the bat. Like, so the first opening chapters sometimes are the most important.
Or abilities or the concept itself, it's a little bit non-existent. There's a lot of other things on top of it that kind of skewer your perception of the story a little bit and its continuity, which boils over into the overall reading experience. So the opening is a little bit disjointed, but that's okay. There's a couple of ways to recontextualize it in the future, but in this instance, putting some sort of statement or dialogue, I think at the beginning or even after it, would have helped quite a bit. Those opening dialogues or statements can be used to frame what you're about to read, the story itself, the world, the emotions, what to expect even. They can be very ambiguous, very context heavy, or just completely random. Words or things pulled from the story which provides something. And you kind of done it a little bit after the opening, which was framed by a very mysterious and ominous figure, which I think is perfect. If you had something like the words that ominous figure was saying at the beginning, the very first thing you read going into the story, or even after that opening, that probably would have made it a little bit more digestible. Also, using Spanish words as a in-word vernacular or slang, I think is very brilliant. I would recommend putting author notes, however, because unfortunately I don't speak Spanish. A lot of people are not going to speak Spanish, and as much as
that's so valid, bro. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about, dog? Bro just comes over and like, si, senor, Taco Bell! And you're like, yes, sir, Taco Bell? And it's like, si. And you're like, all right, dude, let's disculpe. It is a little disjointing when a narrative like throws a whole nother language at you and it just expects you to know it. I get that we have the internet at our fingertips at any moment and we can look this shit up, but it still pulls you from the experience.
I appreciate this in-world vernacular to create more identifiable characters and how people speak. I don't know what they're saying. And as a reading experience, if I have to go out of your chapter to Google what they're saying just so I can understand it, it's a little bit counterintuitive. It takes
exactly what I was saying, dog. Exactly what I was saying. If you have to leave what you're reading to Google something, you've already kind of lost, because now I've already left your piece of media. It's like when I'm watching a video. I mean, if I'm watching something in my free time compared to here on stream, like obviously here on stream, I will look something up and then pull it up on screen to add more to what I'm watching, to add more to the narrative that is being presented on screen, or to kind of refute what's being talked about on screen. But if I'm in my free time and I'm just trying to enjoy this in kind of like a more relaxed setting, and I leave your art to go to something else, I may never come back. Might get distracted by TikTok. I don't really have TikTok, but like Instagram or other YouTube videos, or lots and lots of naked women on the internet. You never know. So the moment that happens, you've already pulled that. You already have that degree of separation that has really hurt your artwork. Like, I mean, it would be interesting too to have a character like that at first they're throwing like they're throwing like little Spanish terms in, and you have one character who doesn't speak Spanish at all, and you throw it in as like a comic beat to be like, I don't fucking speak Spanish, bro. And I don't know, I think that would be funny. I think there's ways of doing it, and it's all encompassed in like a page, so you don't have like a whole chapter where you're like, holy shit, why does this dude keep saying shit I don't fucking get? Like, I get that it adds to the character, but I'm getting a little annoyed with fucking Duolingo-ing everything. So if you like encompass it in a thing, and then like when he does have those slip ups, he corrects himself. The character corrects himself to the main character, but also to the reader.
Off of reading and more so researching, which is a little bit backwards and something that I would recommend avoid doing. Because there's not much of it, it's not the biggest of deals, but for future reference, maybe a little author's note for what this word means or what this phrase means. And if it's something very common like a cheer or a thank you or a greeting, you don't have to do it every single time. People will start to get used to it and it becomes more of a common understanding. But for long phrases, for example, definitely need some sort of author's note just to explain what it means, especially within this type of context, which, considering this is heavy within the opening, it adds a bit of a disconnection to everything, and probably why a lot of people feel that the pacing is rushed or jarring, or that the opening is a little bit redundant. To doubly add on top of that, speaking of continuity, the first handful of pages have a black background, which a lot of manga readers are used to seeing as being a flashback or something taken in a different time period, etc. So that black background represents that, but very quickly it completely disappears. And I can understand artistically this would be very difficult to do because you have armor and a lot of shading, and a black background is very difficult to kind of pull that off consistently, but the extra steps to continue to use it I think would be very viable. The reason I'm talking about this so much is it's probably the most quote-unquote problematic area and covers a lot of the remaining of the story, because everything else is pretty finely tuned. Everything feels nice and flowy for the most part. I actually didn't really have a problem with the pacing after the opening. There is some instances where it feels like it phases or jumps between different altercations oddly, but that can definitely be improved upon just by extending a scene a little bit more or trying to bleed the scene.
The music in this makes me sound like I'm gonna fucking fight this manga. Just like, it's the beginning, fucking blue 87 penises. Brr, brr. As the blowjobs came in for the masked man's face. Brr, brr. He put in a Spanish word. No padre rival. Brr, brr.
Scenes into each other, so it's not as much as a jump, and you can definitely see that you're trying to do that with a lot of scenes. They somewhat bleed either by action or by talking into the next scene, which is great. It's just understanding that pacing and the reading experience going through it. So I think a great way to help rectify this, if you're a little bit unsure yourself, is to have someone that is completely outside of the creation team and just have them read it and go through it, just to see what it's like as a outside perspective.
Bro, masked man. If you fucking need a retard to read your shit, right? If you need like the common denominator of a dumbass, hey, just hit me up, bro. I'll read it. I'll give you some pointers. I'll say, yeah, Dan, don't speak Espanol, so threw me for a little bit of a curve. Had to do some Googling on that. I think that might be a problem. You need somebody to help you out, bro. I'm here for you, buddy. I can be that micro penis king to read your mangas.
Of reading the story for the first time, and does it flow well? Does it feel like there's continuity? Does it feel nice to read and to indulge within? You can definitely do it yourself, but because you are the creator, you're going to have a bit of a bias or a perspective that you're not actually going to get from just an everyday viewer like myself or everyone else, for example. Something to look into.
This may be the last.
I mean, I am like the artwork. I remember looking through his manga and thinking it looked really good like a long time ago. It was one of those things. It was one of those things that I thought at least it was like incredibly well like done in regards to art style. And I honestly want to give it a shot. I just, again, don't have the time.
I think it'd be worthwhile. I enjoy Isaac. I think he's got a lot of traits pulled from Guts. The lonely traveler, burdened by a very mysterious past, burdened by potentially power that he does not understand or know. It's interesting. It adds this level of mystery and intrigue. I like this character a lot. Raymond, even though I feel like everyone's going to die, or at least has the chance to die, he has the most...
I do love that in a manga, that everybody has the chance to die. You're scared to get attached to anybody, so to build these relationships where you start to care just on the, even though you know that they could die at any time, so that those, it's not, I'm not saying that, because sometimes they can use this to cheapen a character to where you just don't get attached to anybody, but that ability to make you get attached to somebody, but then also knowing that the story isn't afraid to kill off your characters, I think is really powerful.
I would say fleshed out personality other than Isaac. It works well with this guy because his personality is very obnoxious, very goofy, very cheerful, playful, etc. So it's a lot better to navigate around and to utilize in a lot of different aspects. When it comes to the other two, they're a little bit more shy, a little bit more coy, a little bit more blanketed. This isn't the worst thing. Sometimes the dialogue feels a little bit too perfect, especially when you have so much vernacular going through them, sometimes slang, phrases. It's a bit odd when they speak, so identical to one another. So maybe trying to decipher how they talk within their own identity and how they would use different slang and how that would express their personality a little bit more. Again, it's only the first chapter. We're only getting introduced to them, so this can easily come with time and building upon them, which is perfectly normal, or they could probably be killed in the next chapter. Side note, I love this little guy. Skull chicken thing that delivers packages and posts to people. Beautiful, brilliant, love him. I want a story just about him. I also really enjoyed the ending. Design for the hands covering Isaac's face and this mysterious, ominous figure behind him. It sparks a lot of intrigue and it's very compelling for people to seek.
I mean, it's also really cool. And here's the thing. Let's go to the actual manga, right? This is chapter 0. So I think that maybe he started on chapter 1 because this is completely different than what I'm looking at here. Because it looks like chapter 0 has a lot more going for it. Like, it has a lot of shit going on that's, like, looks completely different than what he's showing me on screen. And I'm kind of curious. Like, this looks, like, so sick, dude. I don't... Maybe I'm fucking missing something. But this is when you go to the Masked Man's thing, it looks so much different than what he's showing, right? I don't know. It's maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing because like I'm looking at this and this looks like so different, bro. This looks so different. This has a completely different beginning than I mean, this and when I was reading this back in the day, I remember it looking different. And maybe you have to pay him for chapter 1, but chapter 0 looks so fucking sick, and I feel like maybe that's the disconnect this guy's having, because I remember reading part of chapter 0 and thinking it was really, really good, and this guy doesn't have any of that in here.
The next chapter, which I believe you just recently tweeted that it comes out within August. So I definitely look forward to that. Overall, I would say that this is a pretty solid first chapter. Gives you a main character, it gives you a motivation.
I do think that this is missing the context of chapter 0, and I think that's why I have a different perspective. Like when I was looking at this artwork, I hadn't seen any of this, and I have looked through chapter 0. So I think maybe you have to like I don't know. Somebody have to let me know in the comments, because when I click on like the Masked Man's manga, right? I look at it and I see it on this website here. It says chapters 1, 0 or chapter 0, and I don't see anything else. I don't know when the next chapter is. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if we're missing something here or what has I don't know. I feel like this is completely different than what so we only have chapter 0, which has a completely different it's a completely different fucking first chapter. This is on the Masked Man's like newest video too, so this is like where we're caught up. I don't know, dude. Maybe I'm crazy. Or no, this is on his newest video. Let's go to his newest video here. We'll go to videos. I will click on this, and we'll check this out. We're doing some research here, folks. We're doing some research here. My manga. Let's pull this up. Nope, same link. It's the exact same link on his newest thing. So, where the fuck is this guy getting this manga from? Where did he get chapter 1? I mean, I can. Let me just look up here. Maybe I'm off base, right? What is this called? Devoro Read Devoro chapter 1. Devoro. Okay, so here's the first chapter of Devoro. Okay, so there is the first chapter, so this is completely different than the chapter 0, which his thing links to. His channel only links to the first chapter, or to the chapter 0. So that's where I think we're having this disconnect from what I've seen compared to what this guy is showing me, is because of that. Now, I don't know if there's more chapters here. I'm kind of scared because of the adult warning thing. Let's click on Devoro. If anything happens, I'll exit off really quick. Chapter's one chapter. Okay, so it is just one chapter as of this moment, which is a little crazy, considering this last updated 2 months ago. It looks like he's just been adding to it. I'll have to read this. If it's only chapter 0 and chapter 1, I think I can get this through. Maybe I'll make a video on it. I don't know. I feel like that this guy is missing the context from the chapter 0, and I feel like it probably was a crucial part of this.
A bit of the world, a bit of this and that. There is some hiccups here and there, of course, but I think that's perfectly fine. It's all a big learning curve at the end of the day, and some stuff that can easily be phased out over time. I don't think there is inherent faults or don't do this or don't go anywhere near that, which is a good sign, but also stuff that can be cleaned up with a method of production. Obviously, a lot of the background is white. I personally don't really mind, but I feel a lot of people will have an issue with it. It's not a full production.
I don't. I think this looks pretty. I like that the darkness of all these details is really offsetting the white of it. I do think if you wanted to go in, add more details and stuff to really make it something like really crazy profound, it would be a little better. But at the same time, I think this is a good starting point.
Team. There's not 6 different background artists or assistants to go through quality assurance. I fully understand. There's definitely ways to kind of go around it using photographs or different things online to kind of trace over to just provide some sort of elements within the background to make it more filled. And then for stuff like city scenes or panels, very simplified character designs just for NPCs, just to make it feel a little bit more alive and fluid and this and that. There's always more that can be done. There's always more with extra bits and pieces, but it's perfectly fine if you don't want to do them. Just stick within your own strengths. It's better to stay healthy and not to rush or push yourself further than what you need to actually do.
And I have to say, this does look a lot better than most of the manga slop that comes out of the US, so I'm already giving it a little bit of credit there. It does need it, I mean, it even looks better than the original One Punch Man first design, so it's got that going for it.
Is someone that writing the story, obviously, but also for your artist, for the people involved. So of course, definitely take your time with it and what you feel like is acceptable when it comes to artistic interpretation and flair. I will say to be careful of your continuity, the flow of your story, and how you feel like readers will engage with each moment, how they'll progress through each moment. There's a lot of things, a lot of simple things that can pull people out of it, such as that simple black background that represents a flashback of some kind.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that, so it didn't pull me out at all. I thought it was just a black background. That has no effect over me. That is not something I have a gripe with. The throwing Spanish in all the time, I do have a bit of a gripe with, because that does kind of throw you out of the story. I mean, it's cool when it's like a single phrase or something like hola or something that everybody knows, and it's just like, oh yeah, this character has a Spanish background, and it's oh shoot, I totally wasn't reading chat. You do know it's nobody here. Anyway, somebody was mad at me. Somebody was mad at me in my chat. I just realized I wasn't reading chat. Wouldn't it be crazy if aliens and spirits exist and they both want our genitals? That would be crazy. But I just think that by adding in like whole phrases and stuff that your average dude isn't gonna know, I think does hurt your story.
Changing to white, or not being able to understand those Spanish words without going to Google Translate. Again, the best way to somewhat counteract this is to have someone that's not part of the creation process just to read through it and see if everything flows together just as a normal reader, so they can potentially pick up on stuff that you may not see that is a problem because you're the author or because you're the artist. At the end of the day, I think this is a solid first chapter. You have a lot of creative ideas, you have a lot of things that you want to do, and I can see it with the artistry that goes behind it. I know you're not drawing the story, but the ideas that you're probably bringing to the artist and how you're working with them is very nice. And all of you are pulling off some very beautifully conceptualized ideas, which is a combination of all your hard work and effort. So I'm excited to see how this fleshes out further, how this evolves over time, and how these characters start to grow and interact, and just to see everything bloom over time. Congratulations. I'm very proud of you, Mask, and everyone involved. You've done a phenomenal job. If if you are interested in reading Devereaux, want to check it out for yourself, once again, a link will be in the description and the comment section. I highly recommend it. With that, however, I want to thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Leave a like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it.
Let's see what his link goes to, because, like, no. 6 links. Devereaux here, chapter 1. So this goes to this, right? But Masked Man's link goes to something completely different. So I'll show you what the Masked Man's link goes to. So we have his link, which is right here. Read Devereaux here. And then you go to, I saw Masked Man right here. We'll click on this. I'm not going to watch this
with Geico.
I'm just going to utilize this for, I know it's 6 months ago, but my manga here. So Manga Dex. So we have this one. Shit. We have this one right here, which you can hit start reading, right? Whatever. And this has the dumb way where you have to go, like, click this way. So this one I've read part of, right? This is where the Masked Man links. This is like this is chapter 0, the pretext that goes into it. I'm sure that it's interesting. I have not finished it yet. I just looked through the artwork a couple times. I think this is really interesting looking, really cool. His link actually takes you to the first chapter of this. And it's just so, I feel like there's a mistake been made with the fact that there isn't, like, I think maybe chapter 0 explains a lot of what's going on here. I mean, you see the guy with the gun, which is the guy that last chapter ended off on. And I think that's probably pretext to maybe what's going to be going on later in the story. I really, 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 really wish that both, like, the whatever this thing, this also showed chapter 0 as one of the chapters. I really think that it's I don't know if Masked Man is in charge of putting that on here, or who's in charge of doing this. Nice. But at the same time, I do think that he should correct that by adding both in, because I think that it will add a lot to the story. But I don't know, maybe it doesn't add anything. Maybe it just has that disjointed beginning. I will have to read this on my own. But I mean, the artwork's just incredible. The artwork is just absolutely incredible on this thing. Dude, I really I really want to see another chapter of this. I don't know what his it's a prototype, so he's still in the prototype phase. I wonder how close he is to creating more of this manga and doing more with it. That's kind of my question. But as for that, that's all I kind of got on this one, guys.